Well, good day, everyone. Good day, good day, good day. Welcome to Health Check. Health Check, as you know, is where you can stop, take an opportunity, check in on you. Won't you stop, take a minute, check in on you? I'm your host, Dr. Vanessa Bolling. As you know, Health Check is sponsored by Kingdom Health Connections. And Kingdom Health Connections is a health promotional resource center where it's all about cultivating a culture of health, wellness, and healing for you and the entire family. Won't you tune in? Won't you like? Won't you share as well? Good evening, good day, everyone, depending on when you're seeing this, when you're watching this. As you know, for the month of February, it is Heart Health Awareness Month. It's also a month of when people tend to focus on showing expressions of love. And, I wanted to do a little name twist, and I called this month's series Soul Food because when you think about soul food, you think about that food that you really, really love. May not always be the best for us, but we really love, we really enjoy, and really kind of touch bases on the relationship that we tend to have with food. Food, as we know, we need it. We need it for not just survival, we need it for our bodies to grow, for our bodies to heal, for our bodies to nourish itself so it can function to the best capacity. But how do we know? How many of us know that, it's just like a vehicle? The quality gas that we put inside the car helps determine how fast that car can go, how well it can drive, how efficiently it can drive, and maybe even the next time you need to refuel it too as well. Right. And the quality of what we put inside our bodies help our bodies in terms of how well it's fueled, and even the longevity of how long it's fueled. So we're not eating as much calories, we're not overeating, we're not overindulging. And it also allows us to have less checkups as a result, because we're less likely to have chronic conditions, chronic medical conditions, when we're taking better care of our bodies. So as I mentioned, this month is all focused on soul food. So that food that may be dear to our hearts, but for us to have and build a better relationship with food and knowing why it's there in our bodies. As I mentioned last week, catch the replay if you missed it, that it was never intended for food to control us. It was never intended for us to be controlled by our taste buds, but it was intended for us to have rulership, have dominion, have authority, have power to reign over everything in the earth. Never intended for it to reign over us, right? Our desires, our appetite, our taste buds were supposed to be after God. God and God alone. Nothing else was supposed to take his place. But can we say that we've gotten into disorder because we've fallen out of the natural order of what God has intended for us? Instead of us now craving and hungering and thirsting after him, now we're hungering and craving and thirsting after food. Can we say yes to that? Can we attest to that? So, this is something that we're all really living. It's just to raise awareness, raise our ability to even recognize if this is something that affects us as well. So, soul food, as I shared last week, and I want to build up a little bit more on last week. It's largely connected with Southern food. So I am, even though I use the word twist, I am going to talk a little bit about what's this soul food and how it relates to our heart health. And soul food is thought to be related to Southern food, and there's a history to that. And throughout this month, I'm also going to talk about that. It's very interesting how the history of it affects us even today. But it's also been turned to be like this traditional cuisine for African Americans. It's something that we tend to sometimes overindulge in or enjoy indulging in when we see pictures of it, when we hear about it. We may even travel outside of the state for it, consider ourselves foodies because of what things such as soul food. So it's become like this integral part of African American culture. And the whole term and terminology. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into it for this session, but for another, I'll go a little bit more into it. It's really been correlated with this sense of family, togetherness, home, enjoyment, celebration, which food can be a part of a celebration. It can be a part of parties. It's a part of our daily life, right? Where it's a part of our experience, our human experience. We need food, right? But this category of what's considered soul food has been attached to that sense of belonging, that sense of home, that sense of family, family unit, togetherness. This is a part of the integral part of culture, as I mentioned. I'm going to throw a picture up here. It may make you salivate just a little bit, but this may be a classic dish, not the only dish, but we may have cornbread, macaroni and cheese, candy yams, rice and beans, fried chicken, fried fish, ham hocks. There may be smothered pork chops, gumbo, black-eyed peas. And then to top it off at the end of it, possibly sweet potato pie, peach cobbler, and some Kool-Aid. Can we talk about the Kool-Aid? No, I'll leave the Kool-Aid alone for right now. Let's take steps, right? Let's take some steps, right? So, our beverage typically may be some form of Kool-Aid, maybe soda, but some really rich, very tasty Kool-Aid along with the dessert after everything that we might have eaten. And so we see the quality and the content of these meals really incorporating meals that are meats that are processed, that are fried. There's additional fats, there's additional sweets, there's flour involved, eggs involved, a lot of content and components just to make the food, right? What's correlated with Southern or soul food per se, what's correlated with it is there's a higher content of saturated fats. There's a higher content of trans fats. There's a higher content of glucose in the food because of the added sugars, whether it's beverages. There's an added content of salt, not to mention seasonings that already have salt in them, and then the additional salt with them. So these foods and these eating patterns, as I mentioned, it's become like this integral part of African American culture and cuisine. But these foods and these eating patterns have been linked to more cases of and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, cancer, stroke, as well as mental decline. So we're talking about things such as dementia, because we do need fatty acids in our bodies based from our food to really support our brain health, but not. So for example, omega-3 fatty acids, you find that more in foods like salmon. Omega-6 fatty acids are found in things like vegetable oils, those oils that you tend to fry foods in. The omega-6 fatty acids, however, are linked more with things like dementia. So it does not preserve brain health the way that it should. So we're seeing the correlation of what's considered soul food, the Southern food, this integral part of African American cuisine, and a lot of other cuisines too as well, that is more rich in fat, saturated fat, trans fats, glucose, that's rich in salt as well, that's linked to chronic diseases. And when you look at the statistics, which is probably not new to many of us, the statistics of any chronic condition, most chronic conditions that you can see, according to different bodies such as the CDC, American Heart Association, when it comes to cardiovascular disease, so we're talking about heart health now a little bit. When it comes to cardiovascular disease, where do we see that it affects? Who do we see that it affects the most? We tend to see this with African American individuals. So there was a statistics that showed that those who are 18 to 49, there was a 2 times likelihood that these individuals would die from heart disease. Those 35 to 59, there was a 50% higher likelihood that high blood pressure existed. So we know high blood pressure is a huge risk factor to cardiovascular disease. And what are we saying? And who does this affect more? It's considered African Americans. So as we know, and as I mentioned last week, poor diet or poor nutritional value foods that we consume affects our physical health. What is it that we're more likely to consume that affects our physical health? Things that are higher in trans fats, things that are higher in saturated fats, things that are higher in glucose and salt that put us at risk for these chronic conditions. And who does it affect mostly? And this, I'm talking about soul foods. So I'm talking about foods that are dear to our heart that we may even see as highly important, vital and crucial to our livelihood. This doesn't just pertain to what we consider Southern food. This can pertain to any foods that you may be consuming. So it may not be this. It may be a higher content of sugary foods and beverages that are consumed. And that's your soul food that you may have to start to build a different relationship with. Is it that we can't eat certain things? That's a individualized question for each and every one of us listening to this broadcast, because for everybody it's going to be different. For some of us, no, not even once a month, not even once a quarter, and it's developing that discipline to not do it. Why? Because of the risk factors. Why? Because of the current state of our health. But are we going to continue to allow foods to take us out? I don't think it's wise. Would you say that it's wise? Probably not. So again, it's drawing into the awareness. So we are aware of foods that tend to make us not well, and they may be considered our soul food. They may not be of the Southern American cuisine. It may be of a Caribbean cuisine. A lot of Caribbean cuisine, starches, carbs are high. And we'll see things such as diabetes is more common with Caribbean cuisines too as well. So again, a lot of the times we're culturally tied to our foods. But throughout this year, throughout this time, when we're talking, we're unpacking, and we're unfolding things, we're going to try and do some substitutions. Now, again, it's specific to you. It's specific to your health. It's specific to where you are with your health, whether that's even an option to substitute, whether it's an option to even consume certain things. And if you do, it's at your own risk. But the goal is for us to choose today, because we have the choice today between life and death, blessings and curses. I call on all of heaven to witness the decision that you and I make today. Oh, that we would choose life so that not only we can live, but our children and children's children can also live as well. Because guess what? What's considered and what's even thought to be our soul foods or certain cuisines that we're so in love with and so attached to has been passed down the generation. And for some of us, we've experienced, or we may not even want the consequences of overconsumption of these things that may not be good for us. So let's utilize wisdom this week. Let's become aware of what we've become attached to. And if you haven't already, make sure you get checked, get a more recent panel of blood to see where your current state is, to see how your cuisine and how you've been eating has been impacting your overall health. As you know, this is Third Sunday. Those who are in the state of Connecticut, in the Hartford area, maybe you were thinking and desiring to come visit the Apostles' House at 131 Elliott East Street in Hartford, Connecticut. As you can see here, we are hosting a blood pressure clinic. At this clinic, you'll become aware if what you've been consuming has been affecting or impacting your blood pressure. Your heart rate is also checked as well. This is free of charge. It's something that helps to boost your awareness. So won't you join us? Second level after the 11 a.m. service. If you have any questions about it, feel free to put it here. You can also email me at kingdomhealthtah@gmail.com to learn more about the blood pressure clinic. And there will be some programs rolling out in terms of helping support your transformation as well. So join us on the second level at the Apostles' House every third Sunday. We'll be there this coming Sunday because it's third Sunday coming up. And we'd love to see you there to see if anything that you might have been consuming that may be affecting your blood pressure. Let's go ahead and put #IChooseLife. Say how you're going to choose life today. Is it going to be through awareness? Is it going to be through reduction in terms of controlling your portion sizes? Maybe it's the frequency of what you've been eating that has been impacting your health negatively. However you plan to do it, it's all about increasing the awareness. As we're aware, then we can do something about it to self-regulate in a different direction, because it's time to live. It's time to live, and not only live, but live life more abundantly. So that's to live in quality as well. I pray that you are blessed today. I'll see you here again, Facebook Live on the Apostles House page, Kingdom Health Connections page, as well as on YouTube, the Kingdom Health Connections page, every Tuesday, 9 a.m. I'll see you then next week, Tuesday. Be blessed and have a great week. Bye-bye.